On the morning of her wedding, Alina Ward stood beside a cracked bedroom window and watched rain slide down the glass. There were no flowers in the room. No smiling bridesmaids, no music. Downstairs, only her father's cold voice from the hallway. Car will be here in 10 minutes. Alina looked at the plain white dress hanging from the wardrobe. It had belonged to her late mother. The sleeves were slightly loose, and the fabric had turned pale with age. She did not feel like a bride. She felt like someone being sent away 3 months earlier. Her father's construction business had collapsed. Loans had gone unpaid. Workers had left, and the family home was close to being taken by the bank. Then a man named Daniel Reed had appeared. Daniel lived in a small rented house outside the city. He repaired furniture, drove an old pickup truck, and raised 2 children alone. His son Noah was 8. His daughter, Lily, was 5. Daniel's wife had died 3 years earlier after a long illness. Since then he had cooked every meal, packed every school lunch, attended every parent meeting, and worked late into the night to keep his children safe. Elena's father, Daniel, looked poor, but Daniel had quietly offered to clear a large part of the family's debt in exchange for one thing: a marriage agreement. Alina would become his wife for 1 year. Her father accepted without asking her when Alina refused. He placed a folder on the dining table. "If you don't do this," he said, "the bank takes the house. Your younger brother loses his university place, and 30 former employees will never receive the wages I owe them." Alina stared at him in disbelief. "You're selling me?" "I'm saving this family." "No, you're saving yourself." Her father's face hardened. "You have lived comfortably because of my work. Now it is your turn to make a sacrifice." That morning, Alina put on her mother's dress because she felt she had no choice. The ceremony took place in a small public office. Daniel arrived wearing a simple, dark suit that looked several years old. Noah stood beside him, holding his hand. Lily carried a tiny bunch of white flowers from their garden. Alina noticed that Daniel looked uncomfortable too. When the official asked them to sign, Daniel did not immediately pick up the pen. Instead, he looked at Alina. His voice was low enough that only she could hear. "You can walk away." Alina blinked. "What?" "I told your father I would help with the debt, but I never agreed to force you. If you say no, I will still make sure the workers receive something." Alina searched his face for a trick. There was none. "Why would you do that?" Daniel glanced at his children. "Because they need stability. But they do not need a mother who was brought into their home against her will." For the first time in weeks, Alina felt that someone saw her as a person. She looked across the room at her father, who was watching with fear and anger. Then she thought of the unpaid workers, her brother, the family home where her mother's belongings were still kept. Alina picked up the pen. "I'll do it," she said quietly, "but only for 1 year." Daniel nodded. 1 year. "And you will have your own room. You are not responsible for my children unless you choose to help. I won't ask you for anything else." They signed the papers. There was no kiss. No celebration. Only Lily stepping forward and offering Alina the small bouquet. "Picked the flowers myself," the little girl said. Alina accepted them. "They're beautiful." Lily smiled, but Noah remained silent. On the drive to Daniel's house, Alina watched the expensive neighborhoods disappear behind them. The streets became narrower, the buildings older, and the roads rougher. Daniel's home stood near an abandoned railway line. The paint was peeling. The front gate leaned to one side. The roof had been repaired with mismatched tiles. Inside, however, everything was clean. Children's drawings covered one wall. School books were stacked neatly on a wooden table. A pot of soup warmed on the stove. "This is your room," Daniel said, opening a small door. The room contained a narrow bed, a lamp, and an old wardrobe. "It isn't much," he added. "I'm sorry." Alina placed her bag down. "It's fine." That evening, she sat at the dinner table with Daniel and the children. Lily talked constantly. She explained which spoon belonged to whom, where Alina should place her shoes, and how Noah sometimes cried during thunderstorms but pretended he did not. "I do not," Noah said sharply. "You did last week." "That was because the window was shaking." Daniel hid a tired smile. Alina noticed that he cut the children's bread before serving himself. When there was only one piece of chicken left, he placed it on Noah's plate and ate soup instead. Later, Alina found him washing dishes under a weak kitchen light. "You didn't eat much," she said. "I wasn't hungry." "I had seen enough proud people to recognize it." "Lie. You gave your food to your son," Daniel continued. "Washing has a football match tomorrow and you." "I have survived many days without a full meal." His answer made her uncomfortable. She had expected a desperate man who wanted a wealthy wife. Instead, she saw a father who counted every piece of bread before feeding himself. During the first week, Alina kept her distance. She spent most of her time searching for work online. Daniel repaired chairs and cabinets in a workshop behind the house. Every morning, he prepared breakfast before waking the children. But life in the small house was not easy. The bathroom tap leaked. The electricity went out twice. The washing machine stopped during a full load, forcing Daniel to rinse school clothes by hand. One night, Lily woke with a fever. Daniel sat beside her bed, placing a cool cloth on her forehead. He looked calm, but Alina saw fear in his eyes. "The clinic opens at 8, he said. "She needs medicine now. The emergency room will cost too much." Alina grabbed her coat. "I have some savings. I can't take your money. She's burning with fever." Daniel, he looked at Lily and finally nodded at the hospital. Alina held the little girl while Daniel filled out the forms. Lily rested her head against Alina's chest. "Will you leave when I get better?" she whispered. Alina's heart tightened. "I'm not leaving tonight. Mom left after she got sick." Alina had no answer. She simply held Lily closer. Across the waiting room, Daniel watched them. His tired face softened for a moment, but then he looked away. The doctor said Lily had a serious throat infection, but would recover with medicine and rest when they returned home before sunrise. Daniel stood at Alina's door. "Thank you," he said. "You don't have to thank me for helping a sick child. I know you didn't choose this." Family. Alina looked toward Lily's room. Neither did she. Something changed after that night. Alina began making breakfast when Daniel had early work. She helped Noah with reading assignments. She repaired Lily's school costume using thread from an old sewing box, but she still reminded herself that the marriage was temporary. Then, one afternoon, a black luxury car stopped outside the house. A tall man in an expensive coat stepped out and walked directly toward Daniel's workshop. Alina watched from the kitchen window. The man spoke urgently. Daniel's expression became serious. Then Alina heard him say something that made no sense. "The board cannot delay the decision again. Mr. Reed, every major investor is waiting for you." Daniel glanced toward the house. "Keep your voice down." The man lowered his head respectfully. "Yes, sir." Alina stepped away from the window, confused. Why would an important businessman call a poor furniture repairman sir? And why did Daniel look more like the man's employer than his employee? That evening, Alina waited until the children were asleep. Daniel was in the kitchen repairing the broken handle of a cupboard when she entered. "Who was the man in the black car?" Daniel kept working. "Someone I know. He mentioned a board and investors. He was talking about an old matter." "What old matter?" Daniel set down the screwdriver. "Alina, there are parts of my life I'm not ready to explain." She stared at him. "You brought me into your home through a legal agreement. You know everything about my family's debt, but I'm not allowed to ask who visits you. You have every right to ask, but you won't answer. Not yet." Her voice became colder. "Are you involved in something illegal?" "No." "Then why all the secrecy?" Daniel looked toward the hallway to make sure the children were sleeping, because secrets are sometimes the only way to know who would stay without them. Alina did not understand, but his words stayed in her mind. Over the next few weeks, their situation became harder. Daniel's largest furniture customer suddenly canceled an order. The landlord demanded 2 months of delayed rent. Noah's school announced a fee increase, and Lily needed new glasses. Daniel worked longer hours. Alina found a temporary job at a small publishing office. The salary was modest, but she used part of it for groceries. When Daniel discovered the receipt, he placed the money back on her table. "We agreed you were not responsible for our expenses. We also live in the same house. That doesn't make my problems yours." Alina pushed the money back toward him. "Stop treating kindness like a debt." Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Then he slowly closed his hand around the money. "I'll repay you." "No," she said. "You'll let me be useful." For the first time, he smiled openly. It changed his whole face. But the peace did not last. Alina's father began calling her every few days. He wanted to know when Daniel would transfer the remaining money. "I don't know," Alina said during one call. "And I'm not asking him. You married him because of the agreement. I married him because you trapped me. Do not forget what is at risk." Alina lowered her the voice. "The workers received their unpaid wages. My brother's fees were covered. Why do you still need more?" Her father hesitated. "There are other debts." "What other debts?" "That is not your concern." Alina realized then that her father had hidden part of the truth. The marriage had not been arranged only to save the family home. He had borrowed money from private lenders and made risky investments without telling anyone. He expected Daniel to rescue him completely. That night, Alina told Daniel everything. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, his jaw tightened. "Did your father threaten you?" "Not directly." "What exactly did he say?" "That if the remaining debt isn't paid, people may come after him." Daniel stood and walked toward the window. "I offered enough to repay the workers and protect your brother. I never promised to cover gambling losses or secret loans." Alina's eyes widened. "You knew." "I suspected." "Then why did you agree to the marriage?" Daniel turned toward her. "Because your father was planning to arrange another deal with a man who had already been investigated for abusing his former wife." Alina felt the room grow still. "What?" "I found out through someone who worked with him. Your father was desperate. I stepped in before he could send you into something worse. You could have told me. I should have. Instead, you made another agreement over my life." Daniel looked ashamed. "You're right." His answer surprised her. He did not defend himself. He did not blame her father. He simply said, "I thought giving you a safe home and a written end date was better than the alternative, but I still made a decision that belonged to you." Alina's anger weakened, but it did not disappear. "Why would you care what happened to me? You barely knew me." Daniel looked down at his hands. Your mother once helped mine. Alina waited. Years ago, before you and I met, my mother cleaned offices at night. She became sick and lost her job. Your mother arranged treatment for her and never told anyone. She gave us 6 more months together. Alina, eyes filled with tears. My mother never mentioned it. She asked for nothing in return. Daniel's voice became unsteady. When I learned what your father was planning, I felt I owed her the truth of who she had been, but I handled it badly. For the first time, Alina understood that Daniel's kindness had not started with her. Still, another question remained. How did you learn so much about my father's finances? Daniel looked away. Before he could answer, someone knocked hard on the front door. Noah came running from his room. Dad. Daniel told the children to stay back. 2 men stood outside. They wore dark jackets and carried documents. One of them asked for Alina. We represent Mr. Ward's creditors, he said. Your father listed this address as a place where certain family assets may be held. There are no assets here, Alina replied. The man looked past her at the worn furniture. We have a court order to inspect. Daniel stepped forward. When are not entering while the children are. Here. The man handed him the paper. Daniel read it carefully. Then, his expression changed. He took out his phone and called someone. This is Daniel Reed, he said. Send legal counsel to my home, immediately. The man laughed. Furniture repair must be paying well. Daniel looked at him with a calmness that silenced the doorway. You have 5 minutes to leave before my attorney files a complaint for unlawful intimidation. Something in his voice made both men uncertain. They left, promising to return. Noah began to cry. Are they taking our house? Daniel knelt and held him. No one is taking you anywhere. But later that night, Alina heard Daniel talking quietly on the phone. I can't keep the children hidden from this any longer, he said. Prepare the announcement. The next morning, Daniel was gone before breakfast at noon. Elena's manager turned on the television in the office. A press conference was being broadcast live. Dozens of reporters stood inside the headquarters of Reed Global Holdings, one of the largest private companies in the world. For years, the company had been controlled through a private family trust. The true majority owner had never appeared publicly. Then a man walked onto the stage. Alina dropped the papers in her hand. It was Daniel. He wore a perfectly fitted navy suit. His hair was neatly styled. Executives followed behind him as if every person in the room answered to him. A reporter shouted, Mr. Reed, can you confirm that you are the sole beneficiary of the Reed Family Trust? Daniel faced the cameras. Yes. Can you confirm reports that your personal holdings make you the wealthiest individual in the world? Daniel paused. My private wealth is not the reason I am speaking today. The room erupted with questions. Alina could barely breathe. Her manager turned to her. Isn't that your husband? Alina rushed outside. Her phone was filled with missed calls and messages. Reporters were already gathering near Daniel's small house when she arrived. Security guards surrounded the street. Lily ran into her arms. Why are there cameras everywhere? Alina looked at Daniel, who had just stepped from a car. You lied to me. His face was exhausted. I hid the truth. That is, lying. Yes, you let me believe you. Couldn't afford food. I never used company money for my private life. You are the richest man alive, and none of that money brought my wife back. His voice broke slightly, but Alina was too hurt to stop. Was this all a test? The broken house, the old truck, watching me buy groceries. Were you studying me to see whether I was good enough? No. Then why? Daniel looked toward Noah and Lily. Because after their mother died, people came into our lives pretending to care. One woman secretly photographed the children. Another sold details about my wife's illness. Someone tried to pressure Noah into talking about our family accounts. He swallowed. I left the city, stepped away from public life, and raised them here under protection. They needed a father, not an empire. Elena's eyes filled with angry tears. But I needed the truth. I know, you gave me a choice at the wedding, but not an honest one. I chose a life without knowing what it really was. Daniel did not argue. You're right. She removed her wedding ring and placed it in his hand. The agreement ends now. Lily began crying. No, Alina, please don't go. Alina knelt and held her. This isn't because of, you said you wouldn't leave when I got better. The words hit Alina harder than anything else. Lily wrapped both arms around her neck. Everyone leaves us. Alina closed her eyes, holding the little girl while tears ran down her face. Behind them, Noah stood beside Daniel, trying not to cry. Daniel looked broken, not like the richest man in the world, but like a father watching his children lose someone they loved. Alina gently pulled away. I'm sorry. Then she walked through the crowd of cameras alone. Alina stayed in a small hotel for 3 nights. She ignored reporters, her father, and every unknown number. News channels filled the television with stories about Daniel's secret life. Some called him a genius, others called him strange. Old photographs showed him beside presidents, business leaders, and royal families. His company owned hospitals, technology firms, shipping networks, and thousands of properties. Yet the only image Alina could think about was Daniel eating soup so his son could have the last piece of chicken. On the 4th morning, Her father arrived at the hotel. He looked excited rather than ashamed. Do you understand what this means? He asked. Your husband can erase every debt we have. My marriage is over. Don't be foolish. You knew who he was, didn't you? Her father froze. Elena's stomach turned. I knew he had money. I did not know the exact amount. You pushed me into marrying him because you thought you could abuse me to reach him. I was protecting the family. Now you were using everyone. Her father's face became angry after everything I have done for you. Elena opened the door. Leave, Elena, leave, or I will call security. For the first time in her life, she did not fear disappointing him that afternoon. Daniel's attorney delivered an envelope. Inside was a signed document ending the marriage agreement immediately. There was no request, no condition, and no demand that she return. There was also a handwritten letter. Elena, you were right. A choice made without the full truth is not a fair choice. I believed I was protecting my children, but I hurt you while doing it. I am sorry. Your father's remaining debts are not your responsibility. My legal team has reported his fraud to the proper authorities. The workers, your brother, and the family home will be protected, but he will be responsible for the decisions he made. You owe me nothing. The children miss you, but I will never use their feelings to pressure you. Danielina read the letter twice. Then she saw a small drawing beneath it. Lily had drawn 4 people holding hands outside the crooked little house. Above them, she had written, our family before the cameras came. Elena began to cry. A week passed. Then Noah called her from Daniel's phone. Elena, hi Noah. Dad doesn't know I'm calling. She almost smiled. What happened? Lily won't sleep. She keeps her school costume under her pillow because you fixed it. Elena closed her eyes. How is your dad? Noah was quiet. He burns breakfast. Now that sounds serious. He says he's fine. He isn't. Elena sat on the edge of the bed. Do you want me to come? I want you to come only if you want to. The words sounded exactly like Daniel. That evening, Elena returned to the small house. There were no reporters outside. Daniel had ordered security to keep them away, but the old gate still leaned to one side. He opened the door and stared at her. Elena, I came to see the children, of course. Lily ran from the hallway and hugged her so tightly that Elena nearly lost her balance. Noah followed more slowly, but his smile gave him away. They ate dinner together. Daniel had attempted to cook pasta, but part of it was burned. Lily whispered, he's very rich but still can't cook. Elena laughed before she could stop herself. Daniel smiled too. After the children went to bed, Elena and Daniel sat at the kitchen table. The same week light hung above them. I signed the papers. Elena said, I know, so the marriage agreement is finished. Yes. Daniel's hands rested quietly on the table. I won't ask you to return. I know. She looked around the kitchen. Are you moving to one of your mansions? Noah wants to finish the school year here. Lily says the big house has too many stairs. Elena smiled faintly. And what do you want? Daniel took a breath. I want my children to feel safe. I want to repair what I damaged. And I want to become a man who tells the truth, even when the truth may cost him something. Elena studied his face. Why didn't you just tell me after the wedding? Because every day you stayed, I became more afraid that the truth would make you leave. And hiding it made that happen. Anyway, yes. Silence filled the room. Then Daniel reached into his pocket and placed the wedding ring on the table. I kept it because I didn't know what else to do with it. Elena looked at the ring. I don't want another agreement, neither do I. I don't want to be rescued, I understand. I don't want your money. Daniel nodded. What do you want? Elena looked toward the hallway where the children slept. I want honesty. I want time. I want the freedom to leave if this stops being real. Daniel's eyes became wet. And if it becomes real, then I want the freedom to stay. He did not touch the ring. He simply said, that is more than I deserve. Over the next several months, they started again. Not as husband and wife, not immediately. They started as 2 adults, trying to rebuild trust. Elena rented a small apartment nearby and returned often to help the children. Daniel told her everything about the company, the trust, and the security risks surrounding his family. He also began changing his life. He remained involved in the children's school. He continued repairing furniture because the work gave him peace. But he stopped pretending he had no resources. He repaired the roof, replaced the broken washing machine, and created a foundation in his late wife's name to support single parents who could not afford childcare or medical bills. Elena found permanent work at the publishing company and refused every offer Daniel made to place her in one of his businesses. I want something that belongs to me, she told him. Proud of you, he replied. Her father was later charged with financial fraud. Elena visited him once before the trial. He asked her to persuade Daniel to make the case disappear. She stood across from him and said, for years, you called control a sacrifice. I won't continue that cycle. Then she left. 1 year after the first wedding, Daniel took Elena to the small garden behind the house. Noah and Lily were waiting beneath a tree decorated with simple white lights. There were no reporters. No executives. No business contracts. Daniel stood before Elena in the same old dark suit he had worn at their first ceremony. This suit still doesn't fit properly, she said. I know. Lily told me. He smiled nervously and held out the ring. The first time, you married me because you were afraid of what would happen if you refused. He took a breath. This time, I am asking without an agreement, without pressure, and without hiding who I am. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Daniel continued. I can give you houses, cars, and anything money can buy. But the only things I truly want to offer are honesty, respect, and a place beside us, never beneath us. Lily covered her mouth with both hands. Noah whispered, say yes. Elena laughed through her tears. She looked at Daniel, then at the children who had become part of her heart. Yes, she said, but only if we keep the crooked gate. Daniel laughed. I promise. Their second wedding took place in the garden. Elena wore her mother's dress again, but this time she chose it freely. Noah carried the rings. Lily held fresh white flowers. When the official asked Elena if she accepted Daniel as her husband, she looked directly into his eyes. I do. This time, there was a kiss. Not for cameras. Not for money. Not because of a debt. It was the quiet promise of two people who had learned that love could not grow inside a cage, even a golden one. Years later, the world continued to call Daniel Reed the richest man alive. But whenever someone asked him about his greatest achievement, he never mentioned his company. He looked at Elena, Noah, and Lily and said, my greatest achievement was learning that protecting people is not the same as controlling their choices. And Elena finally understood something her mother had lived by. Person's true wealth is not measured by what they own, but by how safely others can place their hearts in their hands.